informational essay. Mine was on the Harlem Renaissance. I want to speak to you about the Harlem Renaissance. It was a great time when a lot of the black culture was able to find out about themselves, and they expressed themselves very much through art. They used literature, dance, drama, music, and they also expanded into the studies of sociology, philosophy, and historiography during this time. This is around the 1920s, 1930 area, and it's the Harlem Renaissance, so it was in Harlem, New York. While they were doing this, like I said, they embraced their African also, and their African American cultures, not just their African cultures from across the continent. During this time, this is about after the abolition of slavery. It was right after the abolition of slavery, and industrialization allowed for them to come closer together from the rural areas, from the rural areas into the suburban areas due to industrialization, and this brought people close together, meaning black people. Also, during this time, the Great Migration from the south to the north was also occurring, and during this allowed for people to come through from the south to the north, making a lot of ambitious people gather close together, which allowed them to support each other, achieve their dreams. Ambitious people seem to be able to help you out doing that. And also during this time, World War I was occurring, so there were many jobs that were going on, and that also helped with the black community and helped them expand and grow as a people. Like I said, this was in Harlem. It happened to be during this time that they were actually middle-class blacks in this area, and while this was happening, middle-class blacks were moving into Harlem, white middle class were moving out of Harlem, and this also happened in a number of places such as Philly, Chicago, New York, and also Cleveland. So that's where it happened at. It began in the 1920s, 1930s. Some big things that were going on during it were 3 plays in the Negro Theater, which was written by a white man named Ridgely Torrance. These white plays, they expressed many black emotions, because back at the time, there was a lot of minstrel things and blackface shows going on for the black people, so we weren't really respected as much when it came to theater, and whenever we were in theater, it was really more of a disgrace rather than an appreciation of the art. But he changed that because he allowed them to show, all these black actors to show complex emotions, and he also rejected the blackface and minstrel show, like I had said. And also, another man named Claude McKay wrote a poem called If We Must Die. This poem really defied racism because it was more about coming together as a black and white people rather than keeping them separate, which was a big thing, as racism was a big thing back in the day. And during this time, it actually had caused a lot of riots and lynchings because of this poem. So things were crazy. Also, the Apollo Theater was a big thing that happened during the Harlem Renaissance, and that became very important, especially in the black community, as we all began to expand arts. And the Apollo Theater is a showcase for all types of arts, music, dance, everything like that. Other than that, there were also a lot of writing going on. There was over 50 volumes of poetry and other types of literature that were made, and also the music, jazz and blues. That's when they came about, things like that. 2 people I have, actually one, this is where my PowerPoint comes in. I have one, Louis Armstrong. He was an amazing jazz player. I don't know, I don't think the music will work. I actually had a sound clip for you, but the internet's not working. I don't know if it's gonna work. I'll try real quick. Nothing. But Louis Armstrong, he was one of the main jazz players during the time, and also Bessie Smith. She was a great blues singer, and these two were very influential artists during that time. And also, like I said, during the theater was also a big thing in the art section. Basically, during the Harlem Renaissance in the 1920s, it was a very big deal for the black and African American community. During this time, it expanded their arts, and it also expanded their knowledge of their culture, not only in the African American community, but also they expanded and connected with their African culture back on Africa, which wasn't a big thing because slavery was still going on, and they weren't really too happy with everything going on in the situation. There was a lot of tension between the white and the blacks, and allowed us to celebrate and identify with our culture and explore our ties. And that would be it for my first one.
Could you talk a little about Louis Armstrong?
Louis Armstrong, he was a jazz player. He was one of the beginning jazz players. I had the clip on there. What the clip was called? I had the clip on there. It was actually a YouTube, and it was going to show him, and it would have had him playing. I don't remember the song. It was on there, but it was him playing the song. He was a great influential artist. He began the jazz. He was also very close with Bessie Smith. They worked together during the time.
It was trumpet, right?
Yeah, he was a trumpet player, as you can see in the picture. And it was, I can't remember the song. I wanted to tell you what the title of the song was. I was listening to it, but I can't remember what the title of the song was. But he was very important.
What made you do your speech about that?
The Harlem Renaissance?
Yeah.
I did the speech about the Harlem Renaissance because back in the day, I'm very into jazz.
Okay.
So I happened to be listening to Duke Ellington.
Okay.
And I was doing some homework, and then
That's
he
what
came on. He came on, and I was like, okay, jazz. Then I went and looked him up, came back to the Harlem Renaissance, and was like, figured, why not just do the whole thing rather than just one person? Strike out. One more question.
You said that during that time there was a lot of migration.
Yes, the
People
Great
were going to
Migration.
Harlem. What was the main cause of that? Why were people now going to Harlem and to big cities like Philadelphia?
Well, due to the Great Migration, it was a lot because of the industrialization and also because of the World War. There were a lot of jobs that were opening up, and also it was free. People were free above the Mason-Dixon line, so they were migrating from the south to the north because things are much less tense and things like that up there. Above the Mason-Dixon line, they had much more opportunities. Instead of World War I, industrialization moved them from the rural areas to the suburbs and to more city-like areas.